Sharon, how the hell are you?
Grand, I can't complain, not just yet anyway.
Well, yeah, we'll see by the end of it if you're complaining. I have found recently that I am constantly babbling and rambling at the start of the podcast just when someone asks me how I am, so I'll have to get better at that. But instead of doing that this time, I'm going to kick straight into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Tell it. Okay, so I am Strongwoman. I compete and I train Strongwoman, and I'm coaching in it as well. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say. There's nothing much else can really expand too much on. Like, there's so much to talk about, but there's all little different areas of it, and it's not sick. Because when you think of Strongman or Strongwoman, you think, oh, the guys would be on TV at Christmas. Yeah, signed. I do that, only I'm a female. But listen,
And come here, so look, let's go. Like, I do want to talk about strong man, strong woman, whatever, as we go along. But how did you find it? How did you get into it? What's your background to kind of get into the industry and coaching and things like that?
Have you got all day?
We put this out as a marathon.
Right. So I kind of, and like most people in the business now at the minute, I started off on a fat loss and weight loss journey, and I was like, fuck it. And then one of the fellas, so in Monaghan, in Car Leisure in Monaghan, we always run a Strongman event every year. Now, this event has been running since 2009, I'm going to say. Yeah, so it's been a massive thing. However, the ladies one was only took in 2015. So I literally had started my fat loss journey in 2014. 2015, one of the boys actually took me outside and started training with the equipment. So there was tires, there was a Conan's wheel, there was a little. I'll kind of try and explain these things to you as I go on. Some of the events, there's a yoke as well, and literally it's like 2 steel poles and a steel pole across the front. Then you put weights on either side, and you literally go underneath it like a squat bar and run with it, or walk, depending how heavy it is. So that was the first off. So when he started kind of doing that with me, he kind of done it unknown to me, so I didn't realize that I was doing this kind of stuff. And I was like, that was actually fun. I was like, can we go outside? And it's fucking brilliant. Now you'd be feeling sick as a dog after it, because obviously it was still a PT session. So I was like, fuck. And then he was like, oh, why don't you try and compete? And I was like, no, cover yourself on. So literally, right? And I was like, fuck this shit. I was like, what am I at? So lo and behold, there was actually 4 women had competed in it. And the way the events ran it wasn't like a strong woman competition now we ran at all. It was more almost like a CrossFit kind of thing. So you done so many tire flips, you pulled the prowler straight away, you'd no rest. You then went and done your yoke walk, you then done your Conan's wheel, and then you done a tire deadlift on like a car deadlift bar. And I mean, like, after that there was kegs. There was 4 kegs had to be loaded onto, like, say the size of a filing cabinet, onto that height. And I mean, I was dying after it. It was nothing compared to what we do now and the standard of the competitions that are out there now. So that's literally how I got into it. And then I kind of left it. And the next time I competed was 2016. And that's when I got into it more so. I think 2017 was one of the biggest years that I had competing. And like, it's 2015 was only a starting point. It literally was only a starting point. So I was like, fuck, I'm strong as fuck. I was like, I can do this. Like, talk about Billy fucking big balls. Like,
But I love that. I love that, because we've actually, coincidentally enough, because this wasn't planned, I'm not that intelligent to plan these things out, but we have talked about recently in the past couple of episodes in terms of moving perceptions, maybe not, but in terms of expectations, in terms of why people exercise, away from either scales or fat loss or whatever it is, into kind of performance-based things, and trying to, because that is more long-term and it's more sustainable, and it's not just getting to a cliff, getting to a wedding, getting to the beach holiday, whatever it is, and going, now what the fuck do I do? So I love that idea of the transition from this was your idea of, oh, I want to lose fat or whatever, and then going to, shit, I'm good at this, or it's something that I can progress in and stuff. It's really cool. So like, when that guy sneakily was training you for strong woman competitions, like, I love that idea, because it helps you try out different things, and there is something out there for everybody. But like, how long was it between you being sneakily trained in strong woman competitions to actually training and trying to compete and get into them?
Honestly, so from that time in 2015, we had kept, because I obviously I work in Coral Leisure at the minute, right? I hadn't been working then. So this is then when I progress on to getting my certs and doing my course and actually following up on this. And I'd say from 2015, from that competition, I looked into it more in 2016. Now 2017 was probably the bigger year for change of when I decided that I would compete competitively, I suppose, and at national level as well. So in 2017, we had a ridiculous amount of competitions. Like if I would take someone on now and told them all the competitions I'd done, if they wanted to do that many, I would tell them to go and do one because it was ridiculous. Like I look back now and I'm like, I done some amount of competitions in such a short space of time. I had no real training program, only of what I was doing myself. And what I was doing myself was I was just training the events because of the equipment that we had in Coral. And that was it. Now, we'll elaborate more on this in a little bit, right? So the equipment in Coral is really old. So for example, tire flips. This is a quite a big tire, but they're really old. So obviously they're second-hand tires. You're not going to put them on a yoke at all, right? So big tractor tire, and the edges of the tire were coming off. So if you went to do a tire flip on the bottom, your hands would slip off more. Now, to train with that equipment, to go with something, to a competition that is a higher standard of equipment is just like, it's wonderful. It is class. And this is what I love more about it as well, because I was training with that raw of equipment that when I got to a competition, I had a better chance. I was able to do it quicker. I was able to do it a lot more elegantly is the wrong word to use because there's nothing elegant about it. It was just quicker and better. Right. So it was class. 2017 was the biggest change because I had done, I'd say if I look back on it, around 5 or 6 competitions. Now, 2017 was where I done Republic of Ireland Strongest Woman. So I placed joint first in that. That led on to the All Ireland Strongwoman. Now, that was held in, I think, September. And that was down in Dublin. And there was only a couple of us who competed at that all together in my weight category. And I remember going training up to Ballinamallard in Enniskillen because there's a fella had Atlas stones. I could not get my hands on Atlas stones anywhere around us at all. That was the closest I had to go. So it's a right bit away, but it was one of the lads that used to compete here at Monaghan. So I was like, listen, can I come up and annoy you and use the Atlas stones and figure out how the fuck to use them? So he was like, yeah, come on ahead. So at the All Ireland, I was prepared for Atlas stones. So you had a choice between a 70 kilo Atlas stone or a 90 kilo Atlas stone. 70 kilo Atlas stone was worth 1 point if you got it over the bar. 90 kilo Atlas stone was worth, I think it was 4 points if you got it over the bar. Obviously, I was going to go for the 90 if I'd lifted it before. And it was from that thought. And I'll always look back on a video because the guy that programs me now is Maddie Costello from Galway Strength and Performance, and Aisha Ulla would coach me. That was the time that I kind of originally kind of saw what was out there and what was to be done. That was my first, in my eyes, between the Republic of Ireland Strongest Woman and Ireland Strongest Woman, that was my first major competition. All the rest of them, nothing against them, but they feel now when you look back on them, they were just learning experiences and they were just like, geez, I did that. It's fucking great. So 2017 came. So I placed first in the All Ireland in 2017. When you placed first, you qualified for Worlds. Now, whenever the All Ireland Strongwoman was over, Maddie and Aisha had actually held a day for us that had competed in that competition to try and get us up and learning a wee bit more about technique, about the way you lift it, about what can be done, and just learning loads of different stuff. And it was brilliant because it opened my eyes a hell of a lot more. So lo and behold, when I obviously had got the invite to Worlds, I was like, what the hell? He had actually supplied me with a program, and that's the one that I done up until Worlds, and I kept at it, and myself and Aisha kept in contact as well. So there was nothing to kind of say that she was coaching me at that stage. So I probably kind of took it for granted because I didn't understand the concept of a coach. Like, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, until she had said it later. So it's mad, but that was a massive turning point for me. And like, even with them now, the amount of stuff that I have learned through them is scandalous. It's ridiculous. It's phenomenal, and that's the best word I can use to describe it. So that was a lot of talking. But listen, you get the gist of it.
I do, and I want to come back to like one of the last questions I'm sure we'll ask is in terms of what's next and what's coming up for you. Let's go back. I know you're a little bit of an historian maybe in terms of strongman and strongwoman competitions. Where affected it all start like, and we'll go on from there.
This is a funny story. So I had a group of ladies and gents that came in, and it was to do with the Moving On program, and it was running through Castleblaney. So I kind of got involved with it, and I was taking them outside for strongman sessions, and I was like, do you know what? I'll do a PowerPoint on everything. And then I was like, I can put in the history of strongman. And this is literally where I learned. Now, this is like last year, way before lockdown. So the history of strongman, do you know when it all started? And this will blow your bloody mind. 1820 at the Highland Games.
All right.
1820 was kind of like, I'm sounding like a weirdo now, but that was originally kind of where it all sort of started. The Highland Games still run today, which I think is unreal. The thing that intrigued them most was, and intrigued me as well, the first televised strongman was in 1977. There is no televised strongwoman. Still. We're now in 2021. So you can just now... Strongwoman, World's Strongest Woman, that I think actually started around 1997. But yeah, it's madness to think that as well.
It just makes no sense because there's no difference in quality in terms of like it's the same people, same type of people doing the exact same movements, and like what difference does it that like what I don't understand there's no aesthetic thing of like, oh, men are doing this or like it's just no nonsense. Who's in control of that?
It's mental. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's just because World's Strongest Man has been about and been on TV for that long, and it's now a well-known thing that Strongwoman isn't. It's well known now, and it's becoming way more popular, but it's still not well enough to be on TV the same because there's different organizations within Strongman as well. So you have official Strongman, you have Ultimate Strongman, same as the likes of there's different powerlifting organizations. You then have the Natural Federation, which is coming up and running as well, in Strongman, Strongwoman too. So I think it's just now. To be fair, I think in 2016 or 2017, Worlds, that was official Strongman, so that was Strongman and Strongwoman. That competition that I had done was actually live streamed, and that was in 2017, which is better than nothing. So it was both live streamed, ladies and gents, which was nice to have as well. But it's just one of those things I think that you just sort of brush under the carpet too, which isn't right. But listen, it is what it is. I don't really pass much remarks on it anymore at all.
Yeah, but like you say that, but 2017 it got to stream, then you're like you shouldn't be. It's not to the point where. I presume maybe I'm wrong here, but it's not like soccer in that there's loads of money in the male and not so much in the female, and people can still make those arguments. They're completely and utterly straw man arguments, but people can still make them. In terms of strong man, strong woman, I can't imagine there's a massive amount of money in strong man that wouldn't like. So what's there's no difference.
It's mental.
Yeah,
it's a sport that you have to be prepared that unless you make it really big, and even at that, there's nothing really there at the end bar almost a title is almost what it is. Now yes, there will be a cash prize for the likes of that, but now it's nothing. Again, to me, it wouldn't be anything major. Like,
yeah, you can't make it professional, but that was kind of even more of a side point in terms of there's no reason that strong man, strong woman, like the investment isn't going towards the men. Like there should be. Like I remember growing up, what like it'd be on BBC might have had it years ago where there'd be the strong man competition and the Atlas Stones. I haven't heard of them since, but like they were the event you saw and you're like, Jesus Christ, they must be fucking heavy. But like it comes back to 2020 or 20x20 or whatever it was last year, 20 by 20, and the can't see can't be. Like there's so many people out there who would adore strong women train and compete in strong women competitions.
Yeah.
That just like you in 2014, 2015, you were very lucky you had a coach who kind of introduced you to it. We need more people that see it as a viable training technique and training thing to work towards. Like, it's unfortunately all we see on social media and everywhere else is abs and arses and all that nonsense. So
delightful.
Delightful is right. Yeah. So Sharon, come here. We've kind of gone a bit negative on that. I have a question about what you hate about it. But
Sorry.
What? No, that's completely my rant. What do you love about Strongwoman competitions and even the training or whatever?
Oh, there's so much though. Like, where do you even start with that? Right. So I'll start from the start. In the lead up to a competition, so you have a competition, that is your goal, right? You need to be training for it. Now, you might have other things like aside that in your personal life that might have an effect on it, but if that's your goal and you have your goal that you are going to win or you are going to place somewhere within this competition, then you're doing it, and it is within your mindset and you have to do it. It doesn't be put at the back of your head. This is your first priority. And that to me is what I love about it. Now, considering the minute, yes, I do have an injury. I am overcoming it and I will be back competing, mark my words. It's crazy. In the coming weeks up to a competition, right? It's like, you kind of be like, 1 week you might be like, well, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, what? Like, this is crazy. That's a stupid way to the competition. I'll not be fit to lift that. Whereas other ways it's going like, and then you kind of can go down a little black hole of being like, oh, well, what are they doing? Do you know, when you're sitting on Facebook going, what's that she's lifting? And you're almost counting the weights on the bar. And I'm like, stop it. Get away from that. Like, do you know, now that's in the weeks, and you kind of have a freak out. So you kind of have to step away from all social media and all that crap. Just stay away from it, because at the end of the day, you can't be thinking of them as your competition. You can't get negative about them, because look at what they're bloody lifting. Do you know, like, it's the exact same as you. They're training because they want this. You're training because you want this. And I have so much admiration for anyone that does it. So when it comes to competition time, I go, and this took me a long time to do. You find just this wee space, and I love it. Put your headphones on and you just piss off into a corner on competition day. And that is you, your corner, and preferably your coach at some time. Like, I remember at the Cerberus Cup up in Galway 2019, that was one of the last competitions I done. It was the last competition I done, I think, actually. That was the year, and that was the time that I had pulled a 180 deadlift. And I was like, cloud nine. It literally, I remember going into that, and it is just all of the feels. Like, it's, you get it here, you get it in your head, you get it just everywhere. And there's something about that, and there's something that if you think you're going to get a certain lift or not, it's just, it's so hard to describe. It's so hard. It's just, to understand, you nearly have to do it. And that's no word of a lie. It's just, yeah, unreal.
We have had people in here on the podcast before, and we've talked to them about their different sports and stuff. There's not many you can hear it as clear in their voice, and as we're watching on YouTube or whatever, that you can see that you absolutely adore what you do. So it's unreal. In terms of, say, the training, all that sort of stuff. So one question I want to ask you is, like, in preparation coming up to a competition, do you almost go into like a camp, like a boxer might do, or like a fighter coming up to a fight? Or is it just a year-round thing where you're constantly at a certain level?
No. So, like, there'll be like a building phase and a peaking phase within the program, right? So your building phase will be like your off-season, your all-year-round kind of thing. And then coming up to competition, you get your peaking phase, which is just like, it's class, because this is when you're starting to test yourself a little bit more as well. So that's kind of, it's coming up to competition, which is where you get into that zone and where you put your headphones on in the gym and you don't want anyone annoying you, and you just leave me alone. I need to get this lift and I need to get this done now. Get out of my face. Not in a rude way, but when you have the headphones on, generally people tend to leave you alone. Like, you know, I find that it is always nice to have nearly someone to train with as well at certain points. You know, when you're having that really crap day, it can go either one of two ways. It can go with a really crap training session, or it can go a really good training session. Again, probably depending on if you're with someone or if you're not.
So in terms of nutrition as well, Sharon, what's you're talking about the idea of a building and a peaking phase in your training. Is it a big difference between normal everyday you to train like in prep for a competition you? Like what sort of stuff is in the nutritional requirements for a strong woman?
Okay, so that depends on a couple of things. The first thing and the biggest thing would be, are you the weight that you are going into a weight category? So say the usual weight categories will be under 64 kilos, under 82 kilos, and open then would be anything above 82 kilos generally, right? Again, depending on the federation, right? So say if I was 85 kilo on all of off season, I'm going to have to do a cut at some stage to decide when I want to get down to 82. So if I want to do just a big massive water cut before the competition, sometimes that can deplete on strength a little bit then coming up and you just feel shitty and you're drinking like a racehorse then on the day of the comp. Again, depends on weigh-in, when weigh-in is on the comp as well. In regards to nutrition, my nutrition is an absolute sham at the minute. Let's not deny it, right? I will have and I tell all my clients that as well. I was like, don't even quiz me. I was like, you all know I have shit nutrition at the minute. It's like, it's fine. Okay, give me 2 weeks, I'll be grand. Yeah. So in regards to when you're like in off-season nutrition, as long as you have it, that it's some way maintainable and it nearly then like you're settled and you're happy and you know what you're eating and you know you have certain times in that and that you're not going completely into the likes of starvation mode, which is not what you want at all, right? In regards coming up to a competition, your nutrition has to be spot on all of the time, basically. In regards to coming up to a competition, what happens with a lot of people is with the heavier training and that kind of thing as well, you start to get hungrier really quickly. So it's just because it's taken so much more out of your body and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So the likes of silly wee things even to have in your trainer bag, like there's some of those sessions could take 2 hours, if not over it. It depends on what is on the program that's set out for you. So the likes of having dates, a banana, anything, a piece of dark chocolate, anything at all that will just kind of keep you going through your training session. Now, in regards to the amount of calories that you would consume, again, everyone is different. There's no one way about it that, oh, well, you should be eating like 4,000 calories a day. No, you shouldn't. Not if you're trying to cut down in weight, number one. Not if you're trying to, different things. Like, so,
yeah.
Like I have a friend that competes and she'd be quite a close friend actually. So she could be up on 3,200 calories a day. Roughly around that range in between 2,700 and 3,300, right? Every day is different. So whereas that's fine, she can maintain that and she can go slightly over, say if she's 65 kilo, 1 kilo is not going to hurt to try and cut off before competition, and that's easy done. A lot of that could be tension, it could be stress, it could be as in water retention. Like I remember doing a water cut. Not a water cut. I do remember that too. That was horrendous. So there's 2 stories, right? I done a massive weight cut and I've done a water cut as well. So we'll start with the weight cut. The weight cut was back in 2019. Now, I think I had roughly around 10 weeks to competition, to the All Ireland competition, right? And I knew this myself, but I'd never done anything about it. So I had to cut in under 82 kilo category. I think I was weighing around between 87 and 89. So I think around a 5 to 7 kilo cut I had to do for that competition. That was horrible. It was so horrible. So now, in fairness, I did it with I had a nutrition coach at the time as well, and she was absolutely brilliant. But what left me was, on the day of competition, because I had left it so close to do the weight cut, I was depleted. It was horrific. I still done well, but again, I wasn't the person I should have been on competition day. I have another story, and if my coach is listening to this, she will just have the heebie-jeebies listening to it again. I remember doing Europeans up in Lisburn, right? And I had to do a weight cut, and I'll never forget it because I'll never let it happen ever again. So I was weighing, I can't exactly remember what I was weighing, only closer to the time. So I had Europeans say on the competition was the Sunday, weigh-in was the Saturday. And I remember doing a weight cut, and we left it to a water cut. On the on the Monday we started the water cut, and I was say 83.2.
So tell me, what is a water cut now? Just as a heads up for us.
I do not recommend this unless you're doing a competition or anything like that, right? It's horrible. So an easy way to describe it is you started say on the Monday. So my competition was a Sunday. My weight thing was on the Saturday. On the Monday, you start your water cut, and you might drink 3 litres. On the Tuesday, you might drink 4. On the Wednesday, you might drink 5 to 6. It depends on your body. On the Thursday, you might drink up to 8, between 6 to 8. Right? No word of a lie. On Friday, because weigh-in was Saturday, on Friday, you drink nothing.
Oh, God.
You sip at about between 250 to 500 mils of water. That was the way that we had done it. So on the Friday, I weighed myself, and I was 83 kilos. So I was still a kilo over what I should have been. And I was like, after doing a water cut, this is horrible. Should have worked better. So I don't know what the hell was going on with my body. So on the morning of the weigh-in, which was the Saturday, I drove up to Lisburn, right? I had a hat, I had a scarf, I had 2 hoodies, I had a jumper and a coat, right? No exaggeration. And I had the heat on full blast in the fucking car to try and sweat everything out of me. I couldn't even sweat.
Oh my God.
It was horrendous. Yeah. So before weigh-in and before the scales arrived in the place in Lisburn, they actually had a sauna and that. So I had to sit in the sauna, bring my own weighing scales with me, go out of the sauna, right, up to the changing rooms, weigh myself, back down if I still wasn't under 82 kilos. Now, I ended up being 81.8. I never want to do that again. It was horrendous because the stress you were putting your body through, this mental stress that you were putting on yourself as well, was ridiculous. But I'll never ever forget it, and I'll know that if I ever go to cut down again to be in a weight category, I will do it within time. I will not do it in a fucking hurry. I'll not leave it too late.
Well, there's a lesson to be learned there for a lot of us, but I'm really interested in terms of, like, when you a minute ago when you're talking about the first cut you did, the weight cut from a distance out, you said you felt not yourself. How so? Like, was it just a lack of energy? Was it just not being able to hit those lifts? What sort of thing was it?
So lack of energy, big time. And now coming up towards that competition, I could see my strength is not where it wasn't where it should have been. So that kind of got me down as well. So I think it was a mental thing as well. That was in April 2019. I should have pulled that 180 deadlift there by right when I look back, right? However, with things happening the way they did, I didn't. I struggled. At that time, my 1RM was 165, and this is just an example of a deadlift, was 165 kilos. And that was back 2 years previous to that. I couldn't pull 170. I wasn't quick enough with some of the events. So it was like I had a brain fog almost, that I couldn't react quick enough to some stuff nearly then as well. And again, it was because of the stress, because if I done one event bad, it was playing in my head then for the next event. And it's a horrible, horrible feeling. But again, one that you need to kind of get over, because you have that other event next. You can't fuck it up. Like, it needs to be done to your best of your ability. And when I look back now, I'm kind of going, I could and I should have done so much better. But shit happens. I still, I placed second.
Oh, an absolute shambles, Sharon. An absolute shambles. But in terms of, there's a lesson to be learned there in terms of, how would you say, like, like you said, just mentally, you said you weren't at it when we go on these big cuts or whatever. So like you try a big transformation for a wedding, for a holiday, or whatever. You're not mentally there. You're not like this. You're just not yourself when you get to that point. I'm hesitant to bring it up, but like those Kit Kat ads, you're not you when you're hungry. Obviously not a kick.
The Snickers, yes, it's like a diva.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying is you are just not yourself when you are cutting like that, and when we are going trying to do extremes. And again, that's what it is in terms of when you think of it in terms of just weight, in terms of just the scale number, whatever, it becomes a bigger issue than like, oh, I'm preparing to lift or deadlift or whatever, and it's a kind of a nicer goal to be aiming for, you know. One thing I should have asked this question before, so like when you talk about the competitions, what's the layout of the competitions? Like I know you've mentioned a few of the different bits of equipment, but like what's the layout of the competitions, and how does a winner get announced?
Okay, so the layout of a competition depends on what way they do it. So for example, you could know all of your events for a competition and the way that they're going to be ran and everything, and the way it's a month before your competition. You might even know, hell, if it's organized fucking 2 months before the competition. So that's fine. However, there can be changes, right? So on certain competitions as well, some of them I think the Servers Cup it actually was as well, that one in 2019. I'm referring back to it because that was all random events. So the way the guys done it in Galway was they had, say, 5 deadlift events and they put them all into a hat. So you had deadlift for reps, axle deadlift, it could have been max rep deadlift, right? So they'd put all these into a hat, pick out one. Oh, well, there's one of your events. Let's put all, like say another one would be log. So we do log press, but it could be log press for reps. It could be max log press. It could be clean, like bring it down to the ground every time and have to press it up, right? Take that out of a hat, pick one, and then that's your other event. So that it's random and it's pretty bloody cool, because then what they do is they put all of those ones, the events that have been taken, out of the hat, and then they start to take them out to be like, oh, well, this is the order it's going to run in. Do you know, like, it's unreal. And it's, like, so for example, I think that one, there was something like, it wasn't it could have been overhead that was first, overhead press, and then you had farmers, which is a moving event, but then you had max rep deadlift. Usually if you're doing a competition, max rep deadlift is first to get it over and done with, because it's a massive lift and you need all the energy you can. It was mental, but it definitely was one of the best ones. Like, in terms of winners and when you're announced or placings and stuff like that, that's always left to last, always. And no one kind of really has any idea, especially if it's so close. So I'll tell you another thing, right? Depending on the point system, I could go to a competition and I could place second in one event. I could place third in another. I could place second in another. I could place fourth in another. I could still win that event. I could still win that competition, sorry. Do you know, like, it all depends on the point system as well that they have. So you don't have to win. For doing Strongman competitions, you don't have to win every event. You don't have to win an event at all, but you can still win the competition.
I love it. Like, when we see the coverage, maybe you might see, obviously not Strongwoman, but when you do see Strongman on TV for the past however many years they've been on TV, like, you just see the lifting the Atlas stones or whatever. But when you describe it like that, it's an incredibly, like, athletic event. Like, you've got to move, like, you don't know when you're going to be doing what, and it's just trying to keep your body ready for whatever the fuck they throw at you, you know?
Literally, like, there's 3 things that's always tested in every strongman competition. Your endurance is tested, right? If you have a sandbag or a keg run to do for max distance, like, you're not going to be fucking sprinting with that. You know, you're going to take your time and you're going to try and get as far as you can. That's complete endurance. Whereas if it's a sandbag run and you aim, or the likes of your Atlas stones, yes, they're endurance, but there's still speed required there. And then your biggest one is going to be strength. But all of those are tested. So your strength, endurance, and speed is tested. It's crazy.
And knowing
Not
that,
to
I suppose,
mention your head as well.
Well, yeah, that's always included in these things, or goes without saying. So, like, one question that I would have then in terms of approaching a competition? And again, the answer might be it depends, because you don't know what competition we're talking about here. But like, if someone was out there and they were thinking about just jumping in to try a competition, what would your advice be to them as they approach it?
Honestly, if they're even thinking of doing competitions and stuff, go for it, because again, it's all to do with the feels, and it's just the pride that you have for even competing and attempting at it is savage. If they're thinking of really competing competitively, my honest to God advice is go and get a coach. Just, it is so worth it. It opens your eyes a lot more. You learn a lot more with it as well. It's deadly. Like, I couldn't fault it.
Unreal. And like, we battle with this a little bit with the gym advisors, because obviously we sell equipment and it pays, some of it pays the bills and whatever else, but the real investment that should be made initially, at the very least, is a coach to kind of give you that guidance, give you that accountability, give you that what you need. But for a sport like Strongwoman, in terms of progressing to where you want to go, can you start without much equipment? Like, you can obviously have the coach and they'll help you out, but like, particularly in all this, what's going on, like, do you need equipment to just start?
No.
Okay.
So, and people are probably listening to this going, "Does she ever cop herself on?" You actually don't. Like, it's very surprising the stuff that you can do and you can build up to without any equipment. Like, for example, like, there's movements. Your front squat is a movement that's going to come in handy for doing Atlas stones, even your bent over row. The deadlift is obviously going to prepare you for deadlifting that. If you don't have the likes of an axle, sometimes you can use those fat grips that you can get, and you can put them on a normal standard bar. They are horrific, and it depends again what you're doing with your axle, if you're deadlifting it or if you're using it to bring it up overhead. There's certain movements that the wee fat pads might, or the fat grips might slide off, but listen, so be it. Like, event equipment, not really. Like, again, your yoke, your back squat's going to come into that strength-wise as well. Now, in fairness, right, unless you're going to look like an absolute lunatic in a gym and you find a big open space, you're not going to start running with a fucking squat bar on your back with 120 kilo on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know? But those big compound movements all help towards it, like, and all of the accessories as well. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, the likes of face pulls and stuff like that just help massively just to grow a little bit more, and all of those. What else? Like, yeah, like, it's a lot easier than people think to kind of be prepared for stuff. Like, for example, farmers walks. You don't have 2 girders or 2 whatever you're going to use for farmers walks competition. Grab 2 dumbbells. Like, bring them and put them up on steps and just grab them there, because they're obviously, farmers are at a certain height. Grab your 2 dumbbells and walk with them. Do you know, like, there is ways around this. And because I remember, only in fairness, I did have massive help having the equipment outside here in Carroll, like, but only for that I probably would have felt a wee bit lost. But like, as well as that, there's places not all that far from you that have the equipment in this gym, in a certain gym. Like, they do. They mightn't use it, but they have it, and it's no harm to ask people. Definitely not. Like,
that's unreal. I love the idea of, like, just making things like this more accessible, because it does have the performance aspect to it, and that's a big thing of what we're trying to push. Is there, you talked earlier on about going from, whether it was in Coral or not, I'm not sure, but the equipment wasn't the May West, and when you went into the competition, you were like, "Jesus, this is brilliant," and you were flying it. Is there, like, what sort of a difference can you see in yourself, like, as you go up through the levels? It mightn't be in terms of equipment, but in terms of organization or whatever, and how what's the difference between your local competition, your national, and then into your Europeans? Like,
oh, massive. Like, again, where to even start there? From equipment that at local competitions here, like the one here in Coral, again, you had literally just, like, in fairness, they have invested in more equipment since as well, but my God, horrible. But prepared you for better. Do you know? And had you said, when you go to a national level competition, you'll have good standard equipment, to be fair. Like, the likes of your sandbags now will be more than likely proper, like, good Cerberus sandbags or cerebrus, whatever way it's pronounced. When you get shot for that one. So like they'll be more compact, the sandbags now as well, rather than trying to lift a bag of coal nearly, and then if you lift it a certain way, the sand will fall to a certain side if it's not compact. You then go on to international. Equipment is unreal. Like that, the European competition that I was at, they had motorbike as a deadlift, and even the equipment for it was very good. You had Thor's hold was another one, which was just a lump of a steel hammer and you just held against it. But it was brilliant. Like, and then you go to Worlds. Equipment for it is just, it was top notch. Like, I mean, the equipment there was something else. It was just brand new and untouched, and you're like going, oh my god, what? Oh, class. Absolutely class. And yet when all of the athletes are done with it, it looks like shit because it's covered in tacky and chalk and everything. Like, so that's the other thing with equipment as well. So like people kind of go overboard sometimes with the equipment. So they're kind of going, oh, but I need a belt and I need sleeves, but I need wrist straps and I need this, that, and the other. And I'm like, oh, you fucking don't. You only start and calm yourself. You're far safer building yourself off stronger without equipment and without feeling like you have the need to have equipment. You know, for that. Like, for example, do I recommend everyone to get a belt? No, I don't. I don't recommend anyone to get a belt. Not at the start, because you're safer for building yourself off from a stronger base than going straight in, and almost what can happen then is they're relying on equipment. Do you know, like, so say in off season, we would never really wear belts unless it's getting really, really heavy, really quick. And that doesn't usually happen in off season at all. That only happens in peaking. When you're coming up to competition, you will be starting to wear your belt. You'll be getting back into getting used to wearing your belt as well. Because let me tell you something, that can be quite uncomfortable. And it takes a while. Knee sleeves and all that there, people don't need them straight away. And like, that's the God's honest truth. There's no point in me coming on telling you here, yeah, you need everything. No, you don't. You don't, like, unless you are suffering from an injury maybe as well, like a knee injury or something like that, that you need that little bit of extra support, then that's fine when you're training. But you do need to use them before a competition to get used to your body, basically get your body used to using them.
Just to finish up on that sort of equipment side of things then, like what, obviously the ideal then is to start and just get strong, and then these little bits of equipment kind of come in and they're a little supplementary or whatever. But what does a belt do? What do the knee sleeves actually do that means are required when you are going for the big lifts and stuff?
So they add more compression. Basically, all of that equipment adds more compression, right? So the belt that you have will keep you more stable. And again, you have to be sure to know how to brace and to brace into that belt before you use it, though. That leaves everything a lot more stable. And it kind of prevents further injury, I suppose, too. Now, just because it can prevent further injury, that doesn't mean that you go and fucking buy it. Don't until you get a stronger core. That injury might have been prevented if you had had a stronger core in the first place. The likes of the knee sleeves and elbow sleeves, again, they add compression. So if people struggle just in general with knee pain or anything like that, they're a great and they're a massive, massive help. Now, I would have wore knee sleeves whenever I would have done the yoke, right? I did have knee pain for a good while and I kind of felt it was a little bit unstable. Now, with proper strengthening work, it obviously is better now. It's unreal the difference they make.
Okay.
Like it's tight on your knees and it keeps it so much more suppressed. It's just unreal. Wrist straps again, the same thing. Now, and I will say this, if anybody comes to me with sissy mittens, I swear to God, I'll kick them in the hole.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. And look, I think there's a lesson to be learned in that as well, is that when you're using equipment, know why you're using it and what you're getting out of it. For whatever you're doing. So Sharon, again, sorry, I was wrapping up there a little bit earlier. What's next in terms of? I know you said you had an injury. What's next on the agenda in terms of strong women competitions?
Honestly, for me, recover from this injury and see how much longer it can take. I will be competing again, so probably the next one I'd say will be the Natural Federation one. Not that there's not that many unnatural females in Ireland that do compete. It's very, very rare that they're unnatural, but it does happen. So I think if the Natural Federation, when it gets up and running, I'll be aiming for that. Now, whether it be this year, whether it be next year. To be quite honest with you, I'd probably leave it until next year, 2022. So
very good, very good.
So be it.
So while you're building up to that, you will be listening to a lot of tunes. I'm absolutely sure you will be wherever you're training.
Absolutely.
So come here. Do you remember your 3 songs that you're adding to the Gym Advisors playlist?
Yeah.
Okay, give us your first one.
Conquer is one of them. Like that there, that's right in there. That is heart-churning shit, right? That's now my friend, do not judge me in this, right? And I was saying this to you earlier, like my playlist, I was talking to someone yesterday and they're like, what's your playlist like? And I was like, I could be listening to Derek Ryan 1 minute and I could be listening to 90s rave the next. Like, so please don't judge me. That there, my friend introduced me to that one and she was like, it just gets you. And the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, oh my God, it does. And it's like, I'm ready to take on the world. Do you know? Like,
I absolutely love it. And like there's no need to be saying don't judge me or anything like that, because the playlist itself is as eclectic as it comes. There's industrial German metal to the Pussycat Dolls to everything else, Eminem and all in between. So don't you worry about that. Your second one?
Second one was Down with the Sickness, so it goes from one extreme to the other.
This really does.
Oh, get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness. Get up, come on, get down with the sickness.
Just let me lift heavy shit.
On our YouTube version, it is faded in and out, so you don't see us rocking away here to these 3 songs. Yeah. Sharon, do you remember your third one?
Oh, third one was Swedish House Mafia, Greyhound.
So yeah, there's no denying your eclectic taste.
Oh, definitely. Like that one there is one that's definitely more for coming into like something like a moving event and it's like, right, I got this fucking shit. And then it's like you still have your headphones on, you're running like fuck. It's great, like.
Sharon, this has been a lot of crack. For anyone out there who wants to check out that playlist, it is as eclectic as they come. It is just search the Gym Advisor playlist on Spotify. But you are also obviously on the gymadvisor.ie/SW coaching.
Yeah.
But you're also on social media if you want to point people in the right direction.
Yep. SW_coaching_17. I think I have that correct. And that's on Instagram. On Facebook, it's SW Coaching and Personal Training.
Unreal. You're also an affiliate for the Gym Advisor store. So like I said, we really encourage people to invest in coaching and training first and then build up from there. But it is something that we do. We do offer equipment and things like that. Again, no fatty shit, no bullshit. But do you remember your code, Sharon?
SW10.
Unbelievable. Fair play. You're getting better and better.
Fantastic.
I'm not sure if people are doing their homework or not, but I asked a few people at the start and they didn't remember. Everyone in the recent times has got them bang on right, so you're doing better. Fair play. Sharon, this has been great crack, and I appreciate your time. And we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, big time. We'll have to get you doing it actually too.
I am much more comfortable asking the questions, so absolutely not. To the rest of you, though, always, to the rest of you, as always, hasta la fitness, baby.